Hey there YouTube lovers, my name is BB8 and today we are going to predict the Booster Course Pass Part 3. I didn't really intend on doing a Part 3 originally, but because of how well Part 2 has done compared to the original, I thought I would come back 2 more times, Part 3 to tie in with Wave 4, and Part 4 will come when Wave 5 has been announced. And as I've recorded this, the trailer only dropped an hour ago. So I had to get this recorded on short notice. So without further ado, let's get into it, shall we? Before we dive into the prediction, I don't really need to recap my prediction for Waves 2 and 3, so I thought I'd just recap my prediction for Wave 4 from Part 2. So, I predicted in Wave 4 that we would get Tour, Amsterdam Drift, Wii, DK Summit, DS, Luigi's Mansion, and a Yoshi's Island Nitro track in the Fruit Cup. But what Nintendo actually gave us, we ended up getting Tour Amsterdam Drift, GBA Riverside Park, which I did end up getting the GBA track correct, Wii DK Summit, which I ended up getting the Wii track correct as well, in the right cup, but in the wrong spot. And the Yoshi's Island track, which I already saw coming because of leaked assets. Even though I did expect Piranha Plant Cove, which had only recently just come out in Tour. So for the Boomerang Cup, I predicted we would get Tour, Singapore Speedway, GameCube, Daisy Cruiser, GBA Riverside Park, which we ended up getting in the Fruit Cup, and 3DS Daisy Hills. What Nintendo actually gave us, we actually ended up getting Tour Bangkok Rush, which I didn't really expect to get 2 city courses in the same cup, because it was data mined in the Booster Course Pass that Singapore Speedway and Los Angeles Laps would ended up being in the same wave. But I guess Nintendo changed their plans and ended up bringing Bangkok Rush and Singapore Speedway in the same cup. DS Mario Circuit, I do think DS Mario Circuit was a letdown in my opinion, because Mario Circuit from the DS, in my opinion, was a mid track and not really one of my favorites from the DS. Well, Mario Kart DS is my favorite Mario Kart game, I just wasn't the biggest fan of this track. And I was hoping we would either get DS Luigi's Mansion or DS Airship Fortress, because a lot of people did have Airship Fortress on their minds for this wave. For me, Luigi's Mansion, well, I bet DS Mario Circuit fans would be pleased, but in my opinion, DS Mario Circuit was not needed. GameCube Waluigi Stadium, which was the bombshell of the wave, which I am pleased that we did get Waluigi Stadium in this wave, because it does actually look better than it did on the GameCube and the Wii. And finally seeing Waluigi Stadium in Mario Kart after 15 years just feels great. And finally, we ended up getting Tour Singapore Speedway. So, the tracks I ended up getting right were Tour Amsterdam Drift, GBA Riverside Park in the wrong spot, Wii DK Summit in the right cup but in the wrong spot, Yoshi's Island thanks to leaked assets. I ended up getting the GameCube and the DS right, just the wrong tracks, and Singapore Speedway I got right. And the wave we have here is a decent wave. It's just the DS track was a letdown, and the Wii and GameCube tracks were literally the bombshells of this wave. For Wave 5, I have altered my predictions compared to Part 2, but with some of these tracks making it into Wave 4 instead of Wave 5, I thought I had to alter my prediction a bit. So, for Wave 5, the Feather Cup, I went with Tour Los Angeles Laps and Wii Cooper Cape. Those are the only two tracks I've not changed in my predictions at all. Because I know Cooper Cape fits with the Feather Cup well, so I thought I would keep Cooper Cape in there. And the fact that we only have 2 remaining city tracks not featured in Tour yet, I thought I would use LA Laps and Vancouver Velocity for Wave 5. But don't forget, an Athens course has been data mined, so we could get an Athens course in Wave 6. So, continuing on, we have DS Airship Fortress to make people happy, and now that we actually have a Tour Nitro track to use, I ended up going with Piranha Plant Cove from Tour. And for the Cherry Cup, I ended up going with Tour Vancouver Velocity, since Bangkok Rush already made it in to Wave 4. I thought I would swap it out with another Tour City track, that being Vancouver Velocity. The GameCube track, I went ahead and picked Daisy Cruiser. Since we ended up getting Waluigi Stadium instead, I thought Daisy Cruiser must be the GameCube track of the wave. And the GBA track, which was already data mined to be Sunset Wilds, I have put in a different place this time, since Nintendo does usually juggle things up a bit like they did with Waves 3 and 4, so I thought I would do the same with Wave 5, not making it accurate to the data mine, so I thought I would put Sunset Wilds here. And finally, 3DS Wario Shipyard. Since I do think Wario's Shipyard, yet again, has not been remade yet, apart from Tour, and of course, the 3DS was a bit underrepresented in the Booster Course Pass alongside the GameCube. I think adding a bit more 3DS towards the end might actually give the Booster Course Pass a bit more variety. And finally, for the one bombshell of Wave 4 I did not expect to get, was a new character known as Birdo. So I thought with Wave 5, I'd include not one, but 2 new characters, that being PT Piranha to go with Piranha Plant Cove, and King Bob-omb to go with Airship Fortress. And finally, for Wave 6, being the final wave of the Booster Course Pass. And since we have no city tracks left to use, there have been other city tracks data mined within the Booster Course Pass. One of them being Athens, which I ended up using here, thanks to someone commenting on Part 2 about this. For the Acorn Cup, I went with Athens because of the data mine, 3DS Rosalina's Ice World, only because I do think the 3DS is underrepresented in the Booster Course Pass, so I thought I'd use Rosalina's Ice World, DS Luigi's Mansion to end off the DS tracks, and the Tour Bathroom Course that has been data mined with assets. And finally, for the Spiny Cup, we have Orlando, Dino Jungle being the last GameCube track of the Booster Course Pass, 3DS Bowser's Castle, since we haven't really had a Bowser's Castle in the Booster Course Pass, so I thought I would put a Bowser's Castle in here, which I couldn't really decide which one to include, so I went ahead and included 3DS Bowser's Castle, since I do think that is the most underrated Bowser's Castle in my opinion. And finally, to end off the Spiny Cup, we have Wii Rainbow Road. And the new characters coming alongside it, we have Nabbit coming from Tour, and Koopa Paratrooper coming from Double Dash. I know it would have made more sense to include Paratrooper with Wave 5 to tie in with Koopa Cape, but we only had room for 2 characters in that wave, so I thought with a maximum of 2, I knew Paratrooper was one I had to include in the wave. So guys, what did you think of my Booster Course Pass prediction part 3? I am going to do one more part to close off this series of videos at the end of the Booster Course Pass. Once Wave 5 has been announced and released, I will get to work with part 4. And I know I didn't really have a lot to talk about in this video, so I thought I did make a few alterations compared to part 2, but with some of the tracks I may have predicted for waves 5 and 6 ended up being used in wave 4 instead, like Waluigi Stadium and Bangkok Rush. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and turn your notification bell on so you don't miss another video like this one. And I will see you all in a future video. BB8 out.